Hey there, and welcome. Today, we are going to tackle a skill that is, seriously, one of the most useful things you can know. We're talking about rounding, the simple art of taking messy, complicated numbers and making them clean, simple, and way easier to handle.
I mean, think about it. When is close enough actually the right answer? You do this all the time without even thinking. When you say a drive takes about half an hour, or that something costs around $50, you're rounding. It's this amazing practical tool for just making sense of the world. But the question is, how do we do it right every single time?
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the one single rule that governs everything. Then we'll use it on whole numbers and decimals. After that, we'll get into the really tricky cases that trip most people up. I'll expose a super common mistake to watch out for, and then we'll wrap it all up with a quick review to make sure it all sticks.
Okay, let's get right into the heart of it. Now, the best thing about rounding is that it really isn't complicated. It all boils down to one simple, powerful idea. Once you get this, you can literally round any number you ever come across.
And here it is, this is it, the whole shebang. You look at the number to the right of where you want to round. If that number is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you round up. If it's a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, you round down, which really just means you leave your target number exactly as it is. That's the whole rule.
So I like to think of this as a super simple three-step mission. Step 1, find your place. You gotta know which digit you're actually trying to round. Is it the tens place? The third decimal place? Step 2, look next door. Just peek at the one single digit immediately to the right. We're going to call this the decider digit because it makes the entire decision for you. And finally, step 3, make the call. Just apply that 5 or more rule. Easy as that.
All right, enough talk. Let's actually put this rule into action and see how it behaves out in the wild with some bigger whole numbers. You'll see it's the exact same process.
Okay, here's our test subject, 12,874. We're going to take this one number and round it to 3 different places, just to see the rule in action.
Let's walk through this. First, let's round to the nearest 10. Our target digit is the 7 in the tens place. We look next door, the decider is a 4. Well, 4 is less than 5, so the 7 stays put. The answer? 12,870. Okay, now for the nearest 100. Our new target is the 8. The decider next door is a 7. Since 7 is 5 or more, it tells the 8 to round up to a 9. The result is 12,900. And finally, the nearest 1,000. The target is the 2. We look at the decider, an 8. That's definitely 5 or more, so the 2 rounds up to a 3, giving us 13,000. See? It's the same rule every single time.
So, whole numbers are no problem. But what about all those numbers on the other side of the decimal point? Well, you probably guessed it, the rule doesn't change one little bit.
Let's grab a number that looks a little more complicated. 5.376398. I know, it's long, it looks kind of messy, but trust me, the process we just learned works exactly the same. We just have to be really precise about which digit we're looking at.
All right, let's try rounding to just one decimal place. Our target is the very first digit after the decimal, which is the 3. So, we look next door to our decider digit, and it's a 7. Since 7 is bigger than 5, it tells that 3 to bump up to a 4, and our answer becomes 5.4. Simple.
Okay, let's mix it up. How about rounding to 3 decimal places? So we count 1, 2, 3. Our target digit is the 6. We look next door, and our decider is a 3. Since 3 is less than 5, it tells the 6, hey, just stay where you are. So our answer is 5.376.
Okay, you've totally got the basics down. You are ready for the final boss level. These are the 2 situations that cause the most headaches. What on earth to do when you have to round a 9, and why zeros at the end of a number can be super important.
Let's go back to our favorite long number, 5.376398. This time, we're going to round it to 5 decimal places. So if we count them out, our target digit is the 9. The decider digit next door is an 8, so the 8 is telling the 9 to round up. But what happens when a 9 rounds up? Where does it go?
Well, you can't just put a 10 in a single spot, right? So the 9 becomes a 0, and we have to carry the 1 over to the neighbor on the left, just like in addition. So that 3 next to it becomes a 4. It's like a little chain reaction. And our final answer is 5.37640, and pay close attention to that 0 on the end. It is absolutely crucial.
This brings us to our next big puzzle. Imagine 2 people are trying to round 34,972 to 2 decimal places. The first person says, easy, it's 34.9.
But the second person argues, no, the answer is 3490. So, who's right? What do you think?
And the winner is 3490. But why? Why does that extra zero matter so much? Because the instructions were to round to 2 decimal places. That zero isn't just there for looks. It's a placeholder. It's communicating how precise you were. It tells the world, hey, I rounded to the hundreds place, not just the tenths place. It's a sign of accuracy.
Now, let's talk about the #1 villain in the world of rounding. This is the single most common mistake people make, and it feels so logical, but it will almost always lead you straight to the wrong answer.
Okay, let's say we have to round 39.47 to the nearest whole number. The wrong way, the trap, is to round in multiple steps. People see the 7 and think, okay, that rounds the 4 up to a 5, so they get 39.5. Then they look at the 0.5 and think, okay, that rounds the 39 up to 40. That is wrong. The right way is to do it all in one go. Your target is the whole number, 39. You look only at the very next digit, the decider, which is a 4. Since 4 is less than 5, we round down. The correct answer is 39. Remember, only round once.
Whew. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So before we wrap up, let's pull all of this together into one final complete toolkit for you.
Here it is, your checklist for perfect rounding every time. First, always stick to the one rule. 5 or more, round up. Second, find your target and then look only at its direct neighbor to the right. Third, never ever round in multiple steps. Do it all in one shot. Fourth, remember to keep those trailing zeros. They show how accurate you are. And finally, remember that rounding a 9 causes a carryover effect. If you just follow these steps, you've got this.
So, I'll leave you with one final thing to think about. We know the math rule, right? 5 or more rounds up. But what about in the real world? Let's say a price comes to exactly $2.50. Should a shop always round that up to $3 for a cash payment? It's a really interesting place where a hard mathematical rule meets everyday human convention. Just something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me.